It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Thursday, January 30th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mix of sun and clouds today. The high going to be 36. Tonight, no overnight showers, low 33, and then we're going to see rain on Friday, the high 44. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it is 21 and partly cloudy in Pomona up in Rockland County, 27 and clear in Mountainside over in New Jersey, and it's 26 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. We got a lot to get to as we work our way up, 6 o'clock hour, sit-in friends in the morning. Maybe you fell asleep before this plane crash took place last night. This could be the first time you're hearing about it. First responders in a desperate search for survivors after a military helicopter collided with a plane. This was near Reagan Washington National Airport in Virginia last night. An American Airlines flight traveling from Wichita, Kansas, collided with a military chopper while it was approaching a runway at the D.C. airport. This was about 9 o'clock last night. There are confirmed fatalities from the collision. We've been told people have been pulled out of the Potomac River. We don't know how many. Witnesses say they saw what took place at the moment of impact between the commercial jet and the military helicopter. Some onlookers saying they saw white flares lighting up the sky.
And there was a stream of sparks underneath it. It looked to me like a giant Roman candle, sparks shooting from the head of the plane down to the tail.
In that moment, of course, they didn't know what had happened, but they say first responders started arriving at the scene, and they quickly put together that this was some sort of crash.
It's kind of crazy that we experienced what happened right there. It's unfortunate what happened, and I'm praying for everybody who was involved in it. Crews
from all over D.C., Virginia coming to the rescue, trying to figure out what exactly had taken place.
We noticed the planes started having irregular patterns, and they all kind of dispersed from their regular landing patterns. And then we looked up in the sky before that, and we saw these white flare. We didn't really think much of it until we saw the fire trucks start going out to the tarmac and the police cars and the police boats.
And that's when the first responders, of course, raced in. The Washington, D.C. fire chief says search and rescue operations still ongoing after this collision over the Potomac and in the Potomac.
There's currently about 300 responders working. We have boats from all throughout the region, police and fire boats.
The passenger plane was an American Eagle Flight 55342. It was carrying a total of 64 people. That includes the crew. There were 3 soldiers aboard the helicopter that they crashed into, reportedly on a training mission at the time. Emergency crews last night, and this morning for that matter, facing frigid waters, windy conditions on the Potomac.
They're dealing with relatively windy conditions. Wind is hard out on the river. So they're out there working. We're doing everything we can to keep them safe.
Transportation Secretary, the new one for that matter, Sean Duffy, was up most of the night doing updates, says his department will provide all the support that's necessary as responders look for survivors. And, of course, as they look to determine how the jet collided with this military helicopter. And, of course, we have some of the audio from the air traffic controllers at Reagan National Airport. And we get a little insight into what took place.
It was probably out in the middle of the river. I just saw a fireball, and then it was just gone.
So the air traffic controller can be heard alerting emergency responders at the airline, and the helicopter ended up both in the Potomac.
Fire command. The accident happened in the river. Both the helicopter and the plane crashed in the river. It's east of the approach end of runway 33.
342 at the Wilson Bridge, change to start runway 33, clear to land.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of back and forth. Not all of it you can make out, but you can hear what she was saying in the air traffic control tower last night. This man was, this is awful. This man at the airport last night waiting for his wife to arrive.
It's kind of crazy that we experienced what happened right there. It's unfortunate what happened, and I'm praying for everybody who is involved in it.
Authorities in Kansas devastated by the news. That's where the airplane came from. Wichita Mayor Lily Wu speaking to reporters last night. All right, let's try that again.
American to pray. We really want to ask each and every Wichitan, Kansan, and American to pray for everyone involved in this incident, whether involved in the incident in D.C. or those who are helping with the rescue efforts.
The CEO of American Airlines expressing sympathy for the victims of the collision last night.
We're cooperating fully with the National Transportation Safety Board in its investigation and will continue to provide all the information we can. Our cooperation is without pause, and we want to learn everything we can about today's events. That work will take time.
That's Robert Isom. He says the company actively working with authorities.
We are actively working with local, state, and federal authorities on emergency response efforts, and the American Airlines care team has been activated to assist our passengers and their families.
And, of course, the aviation experts already weighing in, trying to figure out what took place. Now, if you're listening on the overnight with Frank Morano, I went on to talk about just coincidentally, my cousin is an Apache helicopter pilot. And so I said, what would a Black Hawk helicopter look like? What kind of view would they have at night when this collision took place? And he described that the Black Hawk helicopter has windows above, below, and on both sides that give crew members near panoramic visibility that is superior, he said, to that of a large jet. That's the way he described it. Now, here's this aviation expert talking about what may have took place last night.
The NTSB, which is obviously headquartered in Washington, D.C., will have dispatched a GO team to immediately gather as much information as they can throughout the day tomorrow to identify all the causative facts, the things that led up to this terrible tragedy.
Now, of course, the big question is who was aboard this helicopter, who was aboard this airplane. Some initial reports saying multiple figure skaters and coaches who took part in the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Wichita, Kansas, were aboard this plane. They don't have names yet, but the U.S. Figure Skating Association confirming to media outlets, including the local Kansas City Star newspaper, that the skaters and coaches were on the national development team. I imagine those names will come out in the coming hours. So what we know so far, this plane crashing into a Black Hawk helicopter. This is right outside Reagan National Airport, 9 o'clock last night. 64 people aboard that plane, including crew, 3 people aboard the helicopter. So far, no word of any survivors. And if you see the crash, and I'm sure you will see video of it during the course of the day, and you can head over to WABCRadio.com to see it as well, that it's hard to imagine that anyone did survive it. But, of course, we pray they did. And, of course, as more information comes into us, we will absolutely pass it on to you. WABC News Time 5:09. Former New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez sentenced to 11 years in prison in his federal bribery scheme. He cried in court yesterday, begged a judge for leniency, but the judge was not buying any of it.
Welcome to the Southern District of New York.
This is, by the way, the senator afterwards.
Wild west of political prosecutions. President Trump is right. This process is political, and it's corrupted to the core.
That's Menendez speaking outside the courthouse. The prosecutors had called for 15 years, while the defense argued for a lighter sentence, citing factors like the 71-year-old's years of public service. Menendez found guilty last July. He accepted gold, cash bars, or Mercedes as acting as a foreign agent for Egypt. Some say that prison term of 11 years is not long enough. Menendez, though, slamming prosecutors like Damian Williams, the former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, who brought the case against him.
Political witch hunt by the Justice Department's NSD and prosecutors who are more interested in political scalps and preparing to run for public office.
As prosecutors consider a 15-year prison sentence, his legal team was arguing that he served less than 2 years. They, in the end, came up with that 11 years. And across New Jersey yesterday, boy, it was hard to find anybody who had any sympathy for the senator. Now, these people spoke out before the sentence actually came down of 11 years, but there's nobody who doesn't believe that he wasn't taking bribes.
If he committed a crime, 2 years is nothing. It's like a smack in the hand. He deserved more.
Politicians get away with anything, like, all the time, so I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't even get 2 years. Maybe he gets like 1 year.
I give him 13 years.
Of course, the argument always is he got caught taking those bribes, but you then question, has he been taking bribes his entire career? And that's what some of these voters were asking.
He was a good senator, but, you sort of can't take money where you're a politician. This is the second time with this guy. This guy just doesn't know how to quit. Yeah, tough luck.
I think he's been a good senator for New Jersey, but I think his time is over.
Yeah. I saw him recently at the gym. I was like, what? So shocked to see him there. I had not seen him in a long time. He belongs to the same gym, but there he was, and I left. Normally I say hi and we talk a little bit. I didn't talk to him. 5:12. Immigrants living in California across the country feeling anxious about these actions by ICE following executive orders that were announced by President Trump to round up the illegal migrants and send them at home. The president spoke about the ongoing arrests of the illegal immigrants.
We are throwing them the hell out of our country. We have no apologies, and we're moving forward very fast.
Yeah, so there's been, of course, a lot of pushback. Local organizations like the Immigrant Institute have created these Know Your Rights and red cards to inform immigrants of their rights when interacting with ICE agents or border patrols. Apparently, the cards emphasize that you don't have to open the door to your home for agents. You can remain silent and should not sign documents without a lawyer present. Yesterday, President Trump signing an executive order that will send some of these migrants to the U.S. naval base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo.
Now, the DEA is part of this effort to find criminals who have crossed the border into places like San Diego, and they say they're focusing their mission on stopping the manufacturing and distribution of drugs, which have killed so many Americans.
We are targeting those that are violent drug traffickers that are here as illegal criminals, and we are working with our federal partners to keep Americans safe. We're all over San Diego County and throughout Southern California. But this was also a nationwide operation where DEA and our other Department of Justice agencies.
Yeah, so this is Brian Clark, the special agent in charge of the San Diego division of the DEA. He says they are also one of several federal agencies helping with immigration and enforcement.
DEA has prioritized our drug investigations involving those violent illegal criminals, but we will work with a greater emphasis on our partnerships with our federal agencies in order to keep Americans safe. We are using all resources of the federal government to remove violent criminals from our communities to keep Americans safe. Our goal and our mission is to seize deadly and dangerous drugs before they reach our communities and to bring justice to the criminals responsible for drug manufacturing and distribution.
Yeah. Yesterday, by the way, President Trump signing the Laken-Riley Act into law. Riley's mother, Alvison Phillips, she attended the signing ceremony, says she's grateful to the president.
We also want to thank President Trump for the promises he made to us. He said he would secure our borders and that he would never forget about Laken.
The law allows for the detention of illegal immigrants who are accused of theft and violent crimes. Trump says it's an important law that brought Republicans and Democrats together.
He's a man of his word. We trust the fight for the American people. We're so thankful of that. Her passion for helping others and her legacy for doing good in the name of Jesus Christ will carry on.
Coming up, 5:15, time for a little sports action. Let's head over to the sports desk and Justin Ellick. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Noam. All in. Start here on the NBA hardwood at the Garden, where the Knicks defeated the Denver Nuggets 122-112 for their fifth straight victory. Jalen Brunson led the Knicks with 30 points and 15 assists, while OG Anunoby added 23 points. Karl Anthony Towns contributed 14, 10, and 5. The Knicks took advantage of Nikola Jokic's early foul trouble and used a late spurt to secure the win. They finished with 25 fast break points and then 23 points off turnovers. They'll next face the LA Lakers at the Garden on Saturday, I should say. In Charlotte, the Nets defeated the Hornets 104-83, ending a 7-game losing streak. Keon Johnson led the Nets with 18, while Jalen Wilson and Tosan Evbun added 15 points and 14 points, respectively. Ben Simmons returned from injury and contributed 10 points and 6 rebounds off the bench. The Nets dominated the game, never trailing and holding the Hornets to 30% shooting in the first half. Brooklyn's next game is against the Houston Rockets. That's on Saturday night. To the NHL in the ice in Jersey, where the Devils defeated the Philadelphia Flyers 5-0 with 4 goals scored in the second period. Jake Allen made 24 saves for his third shutout of the season. Jack Hughes scored his 20th goal of the year. The Devils improved to 15-8-4 at home and will next visit the Buffalo Sabres on Sunday. And as for tonight, the Islanders will lace them back up in Philadelphia against those aforementioned Flyers. Puck drop there is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. Finally, checking in on the New York Jets offseason, coach Aaron Glenn has made the first significant hire for his new coaching staff, agreeing to terms with Steve Wilks to become the defensive coordinator. League sources did reveal to ESPN Wilks was out of the NFL for the 2024 season after serving for one campaign as the 49ers defensive coordinator. He was fired in February of 2024, a few days after the Niners lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 58. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin L. on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:18. Let's go on to Texas. Texas state troopers warning that a border shooting this week is likely just the start of more violence. Lieutenant Chris Olivares says the Mexican cartels pushing back big time against the Trump administration's tough new border security measures.
It's to try to get them out of a certain area so they can smuggle people that don't want to be caught or smuggle drugs.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott sending hundreds more soldiers to the Rio Grande Valley, which has been a hot spot for smugglers.
And we've seen that throughout the years that the cartels use that type of tactic towards law enforcement or even towards our military.
Governor Abbott says tactical border force just completed a training exercise last week on how to repel a surge of migrants trying to cross the border. Meanwhile, Trump administration revoking the deportation protections for hundreds of thousands of immigrants from Venezuela, with the Venezuelan American Caucus saying this is very upsetting to the Venezuelans who are already here.
But more than upsetting is revealing, because that let us know what is the real attitude of the Trump administration towards Venezuelan crisis.
She says things on the ground there have gone from bad to worse since Nicolas Maduro falsely claimed he won the election. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem confirming yesterday she rescinded an 18-month extension of the temporary protected status for Venezuela that President Biden issued before leaving office, which is upsetting the Venezuelan community.
Is there a change in Venezuela that I don't know of? No. Actually, the situation is even worse right now after the gigantic fraud that Maduro committed in the presidential elections.
Yeah, and she says with that status gone, Venezuelans will return to a country that's in a political and economic turmoil.
They know exactly what the situation in Venezuela is. They know exactly the dangers that Venezuelans can suffer if they go back to Venezuela.
5:20, let's go out to California. Families affected by the Los Angeles County wildfires returning home this week. Many are met with a pile of burned debris. Governor Newsom says those with homes were damaged or destroyed can opt in to have the Army Corps of Engineers clear what's left of it for free so they don't have to pay for that.
Debris removal, phase 1, we want done in the next 30 days.
And he says residents obviously going to hire their own contractors. That 30-day timeline is half the original 60-day limit.
Once they sign off on a right of entry, they can do it debris removal for themselves through a private contractor. Once the debris is removed in phase 2, and the building permit process begins.
You know, we're seeing all these heroic stories from the wildfires, which are, 2-3 weeks old now. Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies went into the Eaton fire to make sure everyone who needed to get out did. In one instance, deputy body cameras capture the moment an elderly woman with a walker was rescued from a retirement home.
I've been trying to find a way out.
Let's get you out of here.
Let's get you out. Okay. Where do I go? But don't lose me. I'm 100.
Yeah, 100 years old. The deputies heard this woman's faint voice from down a long hallway in retirement home. They found her and then were able to escort her to safety.
Hello? Where are you? Oh, hi. Okay, perfect. Is there anyone else with you?
No.
Yeah, so body cams captured that moment where they saved that 100-year-old woman's life. Good job done by those deputies. Some of the music's biggest stars going to come together today to help raise money for the wildfire relief efforts. The Fire Aid Benefit Concert will take place at the Kia Forum in the Intuit Dome in California. Super acts like Billie Eilish, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Olivia Rodrigo, Stevie Wonder, and No Doubt all set to take the stage. The concert will be shown live on a bunch of platforms, including Netflix. And the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers says he will match all the money that is raised tonight during this concert, which is a big give. 522. The White House says President Trump's executive order freezing federal aid remains still in full effect. Trump spoke about the order at the White House yesterday.
There was a short-term pause or funding freeze on certain discretionary spending payments, such as government grants, only for us to quickly look at the scams, dishonesty, waste, and abuse that's taken place in our government for too long.
Now, there was some confusion about this yesterday. Earlier in the day yesterday, the White House rescinded the memo issued about the freeze. But then in a post on X, Twitter, the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt said it's simply a take-back of the OMB memo to end any confusion by the court's injunction to stop all this.
Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid have not been affected by any action we're taking in any way, shape, or form. We are merely looking at parts of the big bureaucracy where there has been tremendous waste and fraud and abuse.
524, while we're in D.C., Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s first confirmation hearing over. President Trump's pick to lead the Department of Health and Human Services faced tough questioning about his views on vaccines and abortion.
Senator, I support vaccines. I support the childhood schedule.
Oregon Democratic Senator Ron Wyden went back and forth with Kennedy over his stance on the measles vaccine. Kennedy has received criticism from Democrats and others for his views on vaccines.
Free speech doesn't cost anybody anything, but in health care, if you smoke cigarettes for 20 years and you get cancer, you are now taking from the pool.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren spoke about RFK Jr.
Kennedy can kill off access to vaccines and make millions of dollars while he does it. Kids might die, but Robert Kennedy can keep cashing in.
Republican Senator John Cornyn says he likes what he heard for the most part yesterday.
He told me he's pro-safety and not anti-vaccine.
A Texas Republican says that Kennedy's stance supporting abortion does not concern him because President Trump would have the final say on that issue. The senator did say Kennedy is not anti-vaccine. Instead, he says he wants vaccines to be safe.
Somebody who's anti-mercury in fish is not against consuming fish.
So RFK Jr. going to be back on Capitol Hill today for another confirmation hearing. 525, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu going to meet with President Trump next week. Correspondent Danielle Hamanjan reports.
The U.S. president and the Israeli prime minister will have lots to talk about when they meet in Washington next Tuesday. Of course, the most pressing issue is this fragile ceasefire.
Trump's been pushing Israel and Hamas to uphold the terms of their Gaza ceasefire deal. Netanyahu will become the first foreign leader to meet with Trump in his second term. Trump apparently wrote a letter to Netanyahu saying he looks forward to discussing how they can bring peace to Israel in the Middle East.
There are fears, certainly among Palestinians, that the Israeli prime minister will now be able to implement policies that were considered too right-wing, even unthinkable just a few years ago under this new Trump administration.
And correspondent Hamanjan says there are reports from Tel Aviv that the ceasefire, of course, is still top of mind for the U.S.
President Trump's envoy to the region, Steve Witkoff, is expected in Israel at some point today, and the discussions with officials here will no doubt center around the second stage of this deal, which is still very vague and uncertain.
WABC News Time 526, the Fed leaving interest rates unchanged. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell speaking after the announcement yesterday.
Right now, we don't see that, and we see things as in a really good place for policy and for the economy, and so we feel like we don't need to be in a hurry to make any adjustments.
Yes, and nobody expected there would be a cut announcement. It comes after the Fed cut rates 3 times last year. Also marks the first policy decision during President Trump's second term.
The public should be confident that we will continue to do our work as we always have, focusing on using our tools to achieve our goals and really keeping our heads down and doing our work.
Yeah, President Trump has recently said, of course, he'd like to see the central bank lower rates more.
In your car, online, and at home, the Tri-State's most trusted voice. Talk Radio 77 WABC. It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Talking the news with Noam Laden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the News with Noam on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5:35. Good morning. It is Thursday, January 30th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mix of sun and clouds today. The high going to be 36. Tonight and overnight, we'll see some rain, low 33, and then Friday, rain is in the forecast as well, the high 44. If you are walking out the door with us right now, thank you so much. It's 21, partly cloudy in Pomona up in Rockland County, 27 and clear in Mountainside over in New Jersey, and it's 26 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. The information continues to come in on this plane crash that took place last night. Let's get you up to date on what we know and what we don't know. There's been this desperate search overnight for survivors after a military helicopter collided with a commercial plane near Reagan, Washington National Airport. This was about 9 o'clock last night. The American Airlines flight was coming in from Wichita, Kansas, when it collided with the military chopper. It was approaching runway 33 at the D.C. airport. There are confirmed fatalities from the collision. Several bodies have been pulled from the can't say this word. The name of the river, the Potomac. There we go. Oh my God. The brain is not working this morning. And so far, no survivors have been found. Witnesses have revealed what they saw took place last night at the point of impact.
And there was a stream of sparks underneath it. It looked to me like a giant Roman candle, sparks shooting from the head of the plane down to the tail.
It's kind of crazy that we experienced what happened right there. It's unfortunate what happened, and I'm praying for everybody who was involved in it. We noticed the planes started having regular patterns, and they all kind of dispersed from their regular landing patterns. And then we looked up in the sky before that, and we saw these white flare. We didn't really think much of it until we saw the fire trucks start going out to the tarmac and the police cars and the police boats.
Yeah, so first responders, of course, racing to the scene. The D.C. Fire Department, one of the first there, going through the river, the Potomac River, going through areas around there to try to find any survivors.
There's currently about 300 responders working. We have boats from all throughout the region, police and fire boats.
The conditions apparently tough on the Potomac last night. Windy, of course, the river's cold.
They're dealing with relatively windy conditions. Wind is hard out on the river. So they're out there working. We're doing everything we can to keep them safe.
All right, in a moment, we'll tell you some of the people who may have been aboard this plane. We'll hear some of the audio from the air traffic controller at Reagan National Airport. WABC News Time, 5:39. We're giving you everything we know about this plane crash that took place last night. An American Eagle Flight 5342 was carrying 64 people, crew members included. There were 3 soldiers aboard the helicopter that it crashed into, that it was apparently on a training mission at the time. Transportation Secretary, the newly minted one, Sean Duffy, says that his department providing all the support that's necessary as first responders look for survivors. It's hard to imagine there were any just from the explosion that took place in the sky. We have audio from air traffic controllers at Reagan National Airport describing what took place after this crash happened.
It was probably out in the middle of the river. I just saw a fireball and then it was just gone.
So she was talking to emergency responders trying to describe what took place, alerting them to where this crash took place on the Potomac. She goes on to say it appears that a jet and a helicopter collided about a half mile from the runway.
Fire command. The accident happened in the river. Both the helicopter and the plane crashed in the river. east of the approach end of runway 33. It was a CRJ and a helicopter that hit.
Yeah, so all kinds of people, of course, responding to this crash. The plane coming in from Wichita, Kansas. The mayor in Wichita, Kansas last night, Lily Wu, speaking out.
We really want to ask each and every Wichitan, Kansan, and American to pray for everyone involved in this incident, whether involved in the incident in D.C. or those who are helping with the rescue efforts.
The CEO of American Airlines expressing his sympathy for the victims of the collision last night.
We're cooperating fully with the National Transportation Safety Board in its investigation and will continue to provide all the information we can. Our cooperation is without pause, and we want to learn everything we can about today's events. That work will take time.
Robert Isom there, the CEO, says the company is working with authorities, of course, with the NTSB to try to figure out what took place.
We are actively working with local, state, and federal authorities on emergency response efforts, and the American Airlines care team has been activated to assist our passengers and their families.
And aviation experts, of course, weighing in, trying to figure out how a plane could crash into a helicopter as it was making a landing at Reagan National Airport last night.
The NTSB, which is obviously headquartered in Washington, D.C., will have dispatched a GO team to immediately gather as much information as they can throughout the day tomorrow to identify all the causative facts, the things that led up to this terrible tragedy.
Yeah, and of course, we're trying to figure out exactly who was on the plane, who was in the helicopter. What we're being told is multiple figure skaters and coaches who took part in the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Wichita were reportedly on this plane. U.S. Figure Skating Association confirming that the Kansas City Star, to the Kansas City Star, which is a local newspaper there, that the skaters and coaches were part of the national development team. Now, of course, they haven't released any names as they try to get in touch with these families. This taking place again 9 o'clock last night. And of course, as more information comes in, which it will in the coming hours, we will pass that on to you. 5:43. Let's bring it back home to New York. It was a big day, or could have been a big day, for Mayor Adams. The Justice Department apparently having discussions about the future corruption case against the mayor, including the possibility that they could drop the case altogether. Now, no final decision has been made. Talks between the Justice Department and prosecutors with the Southern District of New York have apparently been preliminary. Political consultant Hank Scheinkoff says it's unusual for the DOJ to drop a case.
The previous U.S. attorney lodged this case. Now the new administration, led by Donald Trump, is saying potentially, no, let's get rid of the case. Is it likely? Or will it be a plea deal, which allows the mayor to leave office and, frankly, go on with his life?
Now, Adams has spent time with President Trump in recent weeks, including meeting with him in southern Florida, in addition to attending his inauguration. The mayor has the backing of Trump, who has claimed Adams was unjustly charged by federal prosecutors and has said he would take a look at a pardon for him. Now, Hank Scheinkoff weighing in on all of that.
It would not be unlikely that having the case dropped might require him, frankly, to leave office and to resign. That would not be unusual. There's always the opportunity, too, for the local district attorney to not have to comply at all with what the U.S. attorney does and to indict the mayor on another charge.
Now, the mayor is scheduled to stand trial on this federal corruption charge case starting on April 21st, 2025. Now, when his lawyer was walking out of court yesterday, he would not comment on the negotiations or discussions that went on in the courtroom yesterday. But we'll have more on this in a moment. First, 5:45. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk and Justin Allen.
Thank you, Noel Millett. And we'll start here on the NBA hardwood at the Garden, where the Knicks defeated the Denver Nuggets 122-112 for their fifth straight victory. Jalen Brunson led the Knicks with 30 points and 15 assists, while OG Anunoby added 23. Karl Anthony Towns contributed 14, 10, and 5. The Knicks took advantage of Nikola Jokic's early foul trouble and used a late spurt to secure the win. They finished with 25 fast break points and 23 points off of turnovers. They'll next face the LA Lakers at the Garden on Saturday. In Charlotte, the Nets defeated the Hornets 104-83, ending a 7-game losing streak. Keon Johnson led the Nets with 18 points, while Jalen Wilson and Tosan Evbumwan added 15 and 14, respectively. Ben Simmons...
Wait, what's that guy's name?
Evbumwan.
What's his first name?
Tosan.
Tosan. Okay.
Yeah.
Where's he from?
That's a really good question.
Oh, okay. Never heard that before.
Where's he from?
I don't know. It's just an interesting name.
No, he just started popping up in the Nets box score like some point
so you don't know who he is then?
No, I mean, come on. If you ask anybody, if you walk down the street in New York City, even in Brooklyn, and you ask anybody to name the starting five of the Brooklyn Nets right now, do you think they can do it?
Not a chance.
Okay,
yeah.
So there you go. By the way, Ben Simmons returned from injury last night.
Way.
Are you excited
Really?
about that?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, he contributed 10 points and 6 rebounds off of the bench. The Nets did dominate the game, never trailing and holding the Hornets to 30% shooting in the first half. Their next game is against the Houston Rockets on Saturday night. To the NHL on the ice in Jersey, where the Devils defeated the Flyers 5-0 with 4 goals scored in the second period. Jake Allen made 24 saves for his third shutout of the season. Jack Hughes scored his 20th goal of the year. The Devils improved to 15-8-4 at home and will next visit the Buffalo Sabres on Sunday. As for tonight, the Islanders will lace them back up in Philadelphia against those aforementioned Flyers. Puck drop there is scheduled for 7:30. Finally, checking in on the New York Jets offseason coach Aaron Glenn has made the first significant hire for his new coaching staff, agreeing to terms with Stephen Wilkes to become the defensive coordinator. League sources did reveal to ESPN. Wilkes was out of the NFL for the 2024 season after serving for one campaign as the 49ers defensive coordinator. He was fired in February, I should say, of last year, a few days after the Niners lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 58. That is your Sports Know, and I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. We were talking about the fact the Justice Department is in discussions, apparently, about the future of the corruption case against Mayor Adams, including the possibility that they could drop the case altogether. Al Sharpton, he was speaking out about this yesterday. He says he wants to know if Mayor Adams promised the president something to get this case dropped.
I think that a lot of people are concerned. The president will try to compromise the mayor and in ways that are not beneficial to the city, such as how he's dealing with migrants, such as how he's dealing with DEI.
Now, a spokesperson, I should point out, for the Southern District would not comment on the fact that this case could be dropped. But, of course, Al Sharpton was ready to weigh in.
So you're saying if he were to get a pardon, you're concerned that he could be compromised?
My concern is that he not be compromised and that this president not try to do a trade on it. Now, I'm not saying that the mayor is in any way leaning that way, but I'm saying he would have to make it very clear what was the basis of it.
Yeah, so clearly that relationship between Sharpton and Adams is a little rocky right now. 5:50, faster commutes, less gridlock, even a change in what time people drive to work. MTA officials now have this mountain of early data, because we're almost a month into congestion pricing, to back up what many drivers, like myself for that matter, have noticed, that there's less traffic in the congestion pricing zone. Juliet Michelson, she's the MTA Deputy Police Chief tasked with analyzing this congestion pricing data. She presented the MTA yesterday to back up this information on her findings. So she says crossing times are 17% faster at the Lincoln Tunnel, 48% faster at the Holland Tunnel compared to the same period of last year in January of 2024. Trip times on the Williamsburg Bridge, the Queensboro, they are 30% faster than they were a year ago.
That is great news for people who live here, people who work here, and people who even just visit occasionally. Many people seem to be switching to transit.
So express buses have seen a 5.8% increase in passengers since January 5th. Standard buses, they're up about 2% in ridership compared to 2024. And the good news for those people who are getting onto buses, their rides into Midtown are 10 minutes faster than they were a year ago. On the subways, there's been an increase of ridership about 7%, a larger spike on the weekend about 12%. And since the weekday peak times of the toll are between 5 a.m. and 9 p.m., right? So the minute it hits 5 o'clock, you have to pay that $9. If you come in before that, it's $2.25. So we're seeing this new trend, and you're all listening to me, thankfully. There's this earlier mini rush of drivers heading into Manhattan, and they're trying to get in right before 5 o'clock, so like 4:55. And I kid you not, we're seeing a surge. I mean, thankfully, our ratings are great, but we've seen the surge in listenership just in the last couple of weeks because it's people who want to beat the $9 toll and pay that $2.25. So there's this new extra early commute. Now, it's not a heavily trafficked one, but there are more people crossing the bridges, going through tunnels, coming into Midtown earlier, so they beat paying that $9 toll. Now, New Jersey continues to say they're going to file lawsuits to try to stop this. The President Trump, says he's going to do the same thing. So far, neither of those things have happened. 5:53. There was an attack inside a subway station yesterday. This was about 3 o'clock at the 59th Street Lexington Avenue stop. A 39-year-old woman hit in the head with a glass bottle. She said she did not know the guy who smacked her with the bottle. Thank God she's going to be okay. They have not found the person who hit her over the head yesterday. Out in Brooklyn, there are a lot of concerns, safety concerns for the elderly population. Apparently, there's people going around targeting older adults. Earlier this month, a 71-year-old woman says 4 teenagers attacked her, tried to rob her. She was getting off a train in downtown Brooklyn. 2 days later, police say someone punched a 74-year-old man in the back of the head while he was walking. He was knocked to the ground. So there are a couple community organizations that are warning senior citizens about these attacks and that they should take care, be careful. This woman, one of the people who attended one of these seminars in the last couple of days.
I get in cabs and I stay kind of to myself.
Yeah, so she says she stopped riding the subway, even stopped riding the bus. This organization that's helping senior citizens navigate this craziness, it's called Safe Horizons.
Because we want to address the fear and anxiety that comes after someone has been victimized. So we want to make sure that, we address those and we empower them.
Now, they're not telling people not to ride the subways, but they say if you are a senior citizen, ride in groups of people. Meanwhile, the search continues for those teenagers who took an MTA subway train for a joyride on Sunday. They haven't found them yet. Here's MTA Chair Jan Olieber, who says he's angry about the incident.
I'm burned about this.
Yeah.
For our riders and for all of us. Failure of security, failure of the supervision, the monitoring process.
Yeah, of course. How did these teenagers get onto this train? How were they able to then pilot the train? They blew through one station at 30 miles per hour. Lieber says the MTA is in the process of updating technology that would stop would-be train thieves, but they're just not there yet. 5:55. We've been talking a lot about this Long Island story. Remember this 14-year-old girl who went missing for weeks from Patchogue? She walked out of her home in Patchogue back in early December, barefoot, got into a car, went missing for 3 weeks until her father found her on a houseboat in Islip. And there's been a slew of arrests in this case. The latest one was a day or two ago, was a woman who was arrested for allegedly bringing this teenager to a man who wanted to have sex with her, and in return he gave her crack cocaine. Now we know about another individual. I mean, it's heartbreaking, outrageous. There's not an adjective to describe this story. The latest person is a 24-year-old Medford man who's charged with rape and endangering of the welfare of a child in connection with this 14-year-old girl. Kevin McDonald arraigned yesterday on charges of rape. He allegedly had sex with this 14-year-old girl in a car in Bellport before dropping her off at a Bohemia motel. Now, he entered a plea of not guilty yesterday, but you get a sense, and from all these people who've been arrested, that this girl was truly trafficked and truly went through just maybe the most awful time anybody could go through in her life. Raped, apparently, by this 20-year-old. Now, I will point out, the 20-year-old, this McDonald, entering a plea of not guilty. They say he has the wrong guy.
He pled not guilty. And that's what he is right now.
Do you believe your client is involved in any sort of sex trafficking ring?
Not at all.
Yeah, so his bail set at $250,000. Others tied to this teen have been charged with sex trafficking, rape, and kidnapping. Of course, we'll continue to follow this story. And I think it's 11 people have been rounded up in this case of this 14-year-old girl, which just is outrageous.